Welcome to Let's Clear the Air, a podcast sponsored by the Allergy, Asthma, and Sinus Center, dedicated to educating listeners about allergies, asthma, and immunology.
Well, welcome back to Let's Clear the Air, all things allergy, asthma, and immunology. I'm your host, Liz Edwards, and today I'm joined by Dr. Jeff Franklin in our Bluebonnet office in Louisiana, and it's good to be with you.
That's good to be with you as well. Thanks so much for having me.
I love sitting down with our providers. I think our patients love getting to know you guys. I know you're super busy, and I'm glad you have a few minutes to catch up with us. Have you always known that you wanted to go into medicine, or what was the turning point for you growing up?
For me, I kind of knew early on, even before I really knew, I think. So I was the kid at like 4 or 5 years old was saying, oh, I'm going to be a doctor when I grow up. But I can't even tell you why I would say that or what prompted me to go in that direction, because at that time I didn't have anybody in my family that was a doctor. Really not my parents, no immediate family, even friends' parents that were doctors. So it's not like I was close to anyone in that regard that was in medicine that would have pointed me in that direction. You know, I really liked my pediatrician as a kid. I thought he was just a cool guy, like interesting and fun, and had a really good rapport with me as a patient. And I'm one of 4 boys, so we went to the pediatrician fairly often as kids, just because kids, particularly
because you're boys.
Yeah, exactly. we get into stuff like that at that age. So we had fairly frequent visits to the pediatrician. So I think maybe just being in that environment, I was really comfortable in that environment, and I kind of liked seeing what he did. So maybe that was somewhat of an inspiration, but nothing in particular. And then as I got older, obviously I was able to kind of delve into that world a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And as I really took an interest in being in medicine, I took the opportunity, like in high school, to do some shadowing with an ENT that treated myself and some of my family members. And so that kind of at least gave me an experience in kind of being in the clinical setting and seeing what that was all about, and really was interesting to me. And so from there, I took every opportunity I could to kind of get involved in various forms of medicine and being in those environments to see if it was really something I was interested in. And obviously it worked out, and something I ultimately chose to pursue.
What made you decide on allergy as your specialty?
So I did my residency in pediatrics. So after I finished medical school, I did 3 years of pediatrics at the Children's Hospital in New Orleans. And so as part of pediatrics, besides obviously treating patients that are hospitalized on the floor, you get to rotate through some specialties as well. And with general pediatrics, particularly hospital-based pediatrics, we would see a lot of asthmatic patients, a lot of patients admitted with severe asthma for exacerbations and such. And I took a particular interest in treating those patients because they'd come in really, really sick. And then by the time they left, they were doing a whole lot better. So you could really see that juxtaposition of somebody that came in just a few days prior and really sick, and then by the time they left, they were in a much better situation. And so that particular disease state was something that really interested me. So I kind of looked, there was 2 avenues that you could kind of go, particularly addressing asthma in that particular space. And one was pulmonology and one was allergy. And so I kind of explored both, but I was more interested on the allergy side of things, just because I liked some of the other diseases that allergists got to manage. Mm-hmm. And I also like the idea of being able to see both kids and adults. So obviously doing residency in pediatrics, I was strictly seeing kids, but I like the idea of being able to see a broader mix of patients. And so that's one nice thing about practicing allergy is you get to see kids all the way on up. So pretty much all ages. And so that was kind of a nice variety as well. And I also like the idea of doing something that was a little more outpatient, not necessarily something that was hospital based.
Right.
And of course, allergies an outpatient type practice, whereas pulmonology, you have some outpatient stuff, but you're doing a lot more hospital based stuff, which is for some, but not for all. And that just wasn't necessarily what I was interested in doing.
What do you wish is like the one thing people knew about allergy, or getting their allergies treated, or what's the one thing you like to share as a takeaway?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is just letting people know that there are treatment options beyond just the over-the-counter allergy type medications.
Right.
And what I mean by that in particular would be allergen immunotherapy or allergy shots, as we refer to it, or as most people refer to it. Because nowadays, most allergy medications are available over the counter. So Flonase, Nasonex, Claritin, Zyrtec, kind of the usual suspects as far as the medications go. People can get those over the counter. So by the time they come to see us, they've already tried this host of medications. And the reality is, and obviously with things like this podcast and with our practice reaching out to the community and reaching out to primary care offices, a big part of what we try to do is make patients aware that allergists even exist. A lot of patients don't know that allergy as a specialty is really an option. And so I think it's important for people to recognize that there are treatment options beyond just those medications, because so many of our patients in South Louisiana, we hear this all the time, they just presume that everyone in South Louisiana has allergies and you just kind of deal with it. You take
Right.
you pop your antihistamine or you spray your nasal spray, and whatever result you get is the best it's going to get. And that's just not the reality. There are certainly better ways to treat allergies beyond just medications. And the most important one, or the biggest one for us, and the one that we try to utilize whenever possible, would be allergy injections or allergen immunotherapy, because that's far and away the most effective way to treat allergies, especially long term. So with medications, it's not to say that they don't work or won't help, but what happens is patients get on this routine of using their medications, they start to feel a little bit better, and then they kind of fall off the wagon. That's just human nature. And so with allergy shots, it's a way of desensitizing them long term to where they get more of a long-term benefit. And the goal ultimately down the line is to get them to a point where they're not needing all these medications on a regular basis, and they can feel well and breathe comfortably and be able to enjoy going outdoors and all those things without suffering with those kind of miserable allergy symptoms.
I think many patients, myself included, underestimate how much allergies affect our quality of life. Like just
Sure.
every day, like the fatigue, it's real. Can you talk about some of that aspect of it that people, like you said, in South Louisiana are probably living with it and don't even know any better?
Right. Absolutely. So, and that's the thing. And I discuss this with patients a lot, and I've gotten this feedback from a lot of patients, is that people don't necessarily understand how debilitating allergies are until they experience them themselves. So for a lot of our patients, they're really suffering. I mean, their quality of life is poor. They're missing school or work. They just feel like they can't enjoy the times of year where we would like to spend time outdoors during because in South Louisiana, it gets pretty hot, especially during the summer. So during the spring, during the fall, where the weather's a little more tolerable, people want to be able to go outdoors and do all those types of things. And the folks that are suffering with allergies, those are some of the worst times of the year for them because of the pollen and such. So it's one of those things where if you haven't experienced it firsthand, you don't necessarily know. But I liken it to somebody basically having a cold, which everybody's experienced a cold at one time or another in their life. And that's not a fun experience, but it's like having that much of the year, or in some cases all throughout the year, where people are having these respiratory type symptoms that are just prevent them from kind of living their best life, so to speak. And so that's
Right.
our goal as allergists, is to kind of alleviate that suffering that people are experiencing. And that's one of the most satisfying things of being an allergist, is that we can identify what's causing you to have those symptoms in the first place, and then we can really address them in the most effective way possible.
Now I'm going to switch gears.
Sure.
So, like, it doesn't sound like you have a lot of free time, but what do you like to do in your free time? If we were to find you off hours, what are you doing? What are you enjoying?
So, I mean, the biggest thing is spending time with my family. So
Yeah.
I'm married almost 10 years, and I have two kids, a daughter who's 8 and a son who's 5. So the kids alone can keep you busy with
Yeah.
their extracurriculars and all that stuff. So definitely that's my happy place is spending time with my family, my wife and kids. I love to cook. So that's
Oh, that's
definitely
good.
something I like to do in my free time on the weekends, whether it be grilling or smoking something or cooking in the house. I like to, try different things, and that's definitely something I enjoy. Definitely enjoy watching sports. So big Saints fan, big LSU Tigers fan. So that of course is a great way to spend my free time as well. When I get the opportunity, and then I like to travel also. Probably don't
Mhm.
get to do that quite as much as I'd like to, especially having young kids. But hopefully, as they get a little bit older, we'll be able to do some more traveling with them as well. So
Yeah.
that's definitely some of the ways I enjoy spending my free time. And then I'm born and raised in Louisiana, so all of my family is here. So my parents, my brothers, with the exception of one of my brothers who moved away, but everybody's here, and really all of my extended family's pretty much here too. So we have lots of folks to visit with, and so that's always a good way to spend some time.
Oh, well, that sounds great. Well, I'm so glad we could be together today, and thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk with us. And it's good to be with you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks
All
so
right.
much again for having me.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Let's Clear the Air. Please consider following this podcast, and remember, if you want helpful and accurate information about allergies and asthma, our allergy experts are here to clear the air.